Welcome back to First Dates and Soulmates, where today we are discussing the heated Rivalry TV series. Yes, it is about hockey. Yes, there are enemies. And yes, there are hockey butts. Let's not pretend we are here for the sports analytics. We're here for the well-lit, at least in Canada, hockey butts. I am your host, Nikki McKnight.
And I'm Meg Casebolt.
And guess who's here?
Andrea Jones.
Andrea's here. Boo, 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 boo.
I had to get outnumbered by Canadians for this episode. And Andrea is dual citizen, so we get it both ways, right?
Yeah, I'm the Canadian circle, Meg's the American circle. Andrea is that center of the Venn diagram, taking up space in all places. All right, y'all, it's true. We watched Heated Rivalry, the first 2 episodes that dropped over the weekend. Some of us may have watched it more than once. I know I sure as hell did. Before we dive into our thoughts on the show specifically, I would love to just understand from everyone what your relationship was with this property prior to the show. Drea, we'll start with you. What is your relationship with Heated Rivalry?
Yes, it's so funny because I started reading Heated Rivalry a year and a half ago. I remember it very distinctly in the summer of 2023. I started reading it, and chapter 1, if you know, chapter 1 just like immediately jumps into them banging. And at the time I was like, this is like really aggressive for me. I set it down and I picked a different book. And then I started looking online for more recommendations, and it kept popping up because I love the Puck Boy series. And so I actually read that first as my like hockey gay romance introduction. So I was like, okay, I'll try it again. And this was winter, Christmas break specifically, because I had so much time to read it that I like binge read every single one in Christmas break. And then I read it again by like February of that year. And then I read it again by like April of that year. Like I was like, oh, this entire series is for me. I listened to the audiobooks. I bought all the print copies, and I am obsessed. So that's my introduction into the Heated Rivalry universe. What about you?
Was it your first queer romance, or was it like just early on when you started reading gay romance?
It was pretty early on, because I remember I had read Tal Bauer's book first, and then this was like early on into that process. Prior to that, it was like strictly queer fan fiction. So this was like my first intro into like published queer romance.
Got it. Okay. I love it. Meg, what about you?
I just looked it up. I first read it in February 2023. I did not have the like visceral reaction of Andrea of either the it's too much or no, I'm obsessed. I was just like, oh, this is a good book. And I think I actually started the series like mid-series. I think I started with Role Model, and then I was like, oh, I want to see what happened with Shane and Ilya. I'll go back and read that book. And then I finished it and I went, oh, it's fine. Like I wasn't obsessive. I wasn't like, oh, I need to read this 1,000 times. It was just like, that was a good book. I'm curious what they did for book 6 in the series. And I never went and read it because I wanted to see how the timeline worked, which we can definitely talk about.
Yeah, Andrea's shocked face. What do you mean you haven't read it?
I think I wanted real time to elapse so that way it felt like it had happened. Sometimes I do that with books where there's a big time gap, as I sort of want to read it later and feel like I have been through it with the characters, which is ridiculous, but it is what it is. But yeah, so I had this experience of reading it. I remembered enjoying it, and then I reread it again for the podcast. I read it last week, and I enjoyed it more. And I think part of the reason that I liked it more is because I have read all the Puck Boy series. I have read other hockey romance, and I feel like this is a tier above it because it's grittier. I feel like Puck Boys can get a little bit like rainbow washed, not in a bad way, but just like, oh, the queer collective, oh, everyone's okay, oh, there's no consequences anymore. Whereas with this, it's very much they have to stay secret for a long time. And I know that's a trigger for Nikki, but for me, it's like, oh no, that makes it more exciting. That makes it more thrilling when they have to have this covert relationship and have the feelings, but they're not supposed to have the feelings. And so reading it this time, I appreciated it that much more.
So what I'm really hearing you say is that the Puck Boy series is the Schitt's Creek of hockey romance. Where everything is good. There's no homophobia. It's fantastic.
Right.
Okay.
Small town didn't happen.
I like it. This is delightful. I have not read the books at all. Soulmates, no, like sports romance is not my go-to. Yes, because the coming out, the secrecy is a huge anxiety trigger for me. and it often results in me skipping to the end of these books just to reread like the last 5 chapters to at least see when it happens, so that as I sense getting closer to there, when I go back to the beginning to read it, I know that it's coming and I can like skip it or read it really quickly.
Well, so I think we can give some context here, which is that this is book 2 in the series, and then they have a sequel that's book 6 in the series. So Game Changer is Scott Hunter's book, and so we were able to see him show up in this story, not so much in the TV show yet, though I think he will be a player. He is there. And then the next book, the final book in the series, goes back to Shane and Ilya later on after they're more established in their careers. So that's what I was talking about with like the long game is the final book in the series.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like, so I haven't read it yet. And then once the show was announced, I was like, you know what? I'm going to be the one in the room who has not read the book, so that I can kind of look at the series purely from a story rather than judging it as an adaptation. Now, it was really fun because Drea did come over to my house on Friday to watch it, and then I just invited a bunch of my friends over that I hadn't seen in a while. I was like, come over, let's drink. And Drea and I are the only ones who really kind of know what the property is, or, you know, are interested in romance at all. The rest of my friends are not. But it was so funny because we're watching it, you know, we're having a good time. There's drinks, there's food. It's great. And then one of my good friends, her best friend since childhood, is a delightful gay man named Mark. And he became our go-to texting person for, hey, Mark, are gay men really interested in each other's pecs this much? And he was like, I must see these pecs to judge. And then photos and videos started going back and forth. And then we started getting Mark's judgment from Montreal, because Nat and Mark are both from Montreal. And that was just really funny to me. So I think before the season finishes, the other 4 episodes that are going to come out in December, I'm probably going to go read at least their books. Again, I'm not super interested in the rest of the series. I might get to it at some point, but all I know is from what pop culture has told me and some of the tidbits that Drea dropped while we were watching it, going, where's his tattoo?
Yeah.
But what about this? And then we were just like, is this what Shane does? And she goes, yes, this is very much a Shane thing. We're like, okay, great. Thank you for that additional context. So that was delightful in that sense.
It was so interesting watching it with people who feel neutral to negatively about romance, because I was like giggling and kicking my feet in the corner, and they were like, but why? And I was like, just enjoy it. And the hockey butts, that was like the unifying moment.
Yeah, I think that the key message that came out of the first 2 episodes for me was gay men are still men who won't have a fucking conversation. But in the best of ways. Okay. Where to dive in? I have so many notes and so many just like little like bon mots, like little like on dit, like little just like small things. I was like, so I don't just want to like quote the episodes of both of y'all. Y'all watch them.
I love that you went full French Canadian for explaining your approach to heated rivalry.
Here's the funny thing. This happens to me a lot because like my second language is French, but from kindergarten to grade 5, I was in immersion. So I spoke French all day. So I learned math. I learned science. I learned everything in French first. So every so often there are these certain words that I cannot remember the English for first. The one that came up last week was actually garde-robe, like wardrobe, like a closet type thing. I was just talking and I was like, I just kept snapping my fingers. I'm like, fuck, what's the English? It's garde-robe. It's garde-robe. On met des robes dans la garde-robe. Ça prend des garde-robe. And they were like, what? I was like, it's a wardrobe. It's just a dresser. It's a thing that you put clothing in. And they went, oh, and I went, thank you very much. So yes, every so often I just can't fucking remember the English for it.
That's just loving that's making me think of Beauty and the Beast, where the wardrobe like leaps out. I feel like that's a character that needs a name like garde-robe.
Garde-robe. Yes. She actually does have a name. I don't remember what her name is though. Yeah, she's the opera singer. So she has a name. Anyway, Beauty and the Beast cosplay was pounded by produce. We're not going back there. Okay, so because you two have read the books, what is your impression of it, like overall? Because I feel like when you have a property that you like or love or feel fairly neutral about, when you see an adaptation of it, there's going to be certain things that you're like, oh, I can't believe they didn't put this in. That was my favorite part. Or there's going to be things like, okay, that's different, but it's better cinematically to put it that way, whether it's consolidation of a plot line, consolidation of character for, expediency of narrative. So overall, what are your thoughts on the show as an adaptation of the book?
So I didn't know that I would be able to watch this. When we first started planning this episode, it was only going to be in Canada. So I was like, let me read the book tightly so that I have something to say and to ask, oh, does he have the tattoo? Or how did they do this part? And I think one of the things that I liked about the adaptation is how faithful it was to the original plot without being entrenched in voiceover. Because I think romance adaptations can have this problem of romance novels are so internal. They're so thought driven. And that's one of the things that we love about the novels is we can really get into their heads. So we can see, especially Shane, we could see his conflict, his internal conflict of, I want to end this. I know the intellectually correct thing would be to end this. We shouldn't be doing this. Why do every time he goes to Ilya's house, he's like, I'm going to end it this time. And then he doesn't because he's horny as hell. Right. But we can see that playing out when he's walking. And that meant that there had to be a lot of work for the actors to show how torn they were. And also, they did a lot of really smart adaptations with the text messaging, which was write the text, delete the text. So you could have that thought without it needing to be spoken out loud, without it needing to be communicated to the other person. And I thought that was really smart, even if I was watching on my phone and these texts were really freaking small. They were really small on the screen. Could we not have blown them up a little bit? Hi, I have some vision problems. Okay, like, can we make the text a little bigger? I also, and like, why they should have put in the subtitles for the Russian. I had to turn that on, but
I heard about that because for me,
Ours was
so we had the Russian subtitles, like the English translations at the same time. But what I heard other people were experiencing on HBO is if you had English closed captioning on, when Ilya, Svetlana, Sasha, whoever were speaking Russian, there were no captions at all. There
were captions, Russian. But you had to turn them on. So I already had the subtitles on, and so it would do it in English. But at first I was watching it without the subtitles, and I was like, they're not putting up subtitles for what they're saying in Russian? That was such a strange decision. And also,
it's dumb.
Just before we get into like your experience, I will say that I thought it was incredibly dark, and apparently that's an HBO thing.
Yeah.
I had no idea. There were points where I want visibly
darker.
Like I was ready to text you and be like, why is everything in silhouette? How come I can't see any of their faces? It was so dark. And obviously I'm on my phone. I'm trying to take screenshots. It won't let you because HBO. But it's like, it was so disappointing in that way. I felt like I missed a lot of the nuance of facial expressions because HBO was so dark. So do better, HBO.
Yeah. Well, it was really interesting when you sent over. So if y'all haven't seen this, you can literally just Google Heated Rivalry HBO versus Crave. HBO went like red lighting with the background, and it was very much in shadow. It reminds me of like the last season of Game of Thrones when it was so dark. I literally turned up the brightness of my TV just to try to see shapes. To try to see shapes, because I could hear voices, but it was real weird. And like them choosing to light it red, I was like, are we making a commentary here?
I think they were trying to make it seem moodier, but it ended up just being like difficult to watch. Yeah, which is a bummer because it was well done.
Right, and it's such an interesting choice because I feel like they already shot it in kind of like this moody, angsty way. So why adjust the lighting? That makes no sense to me.
Okay, so you got my opinion. Andrea, what was your opinion about the adaptation?
Yeah, well, that was one of the things that I liked about the adaptation is that I really feel like they captured the energy of the book. And that's what I was worried about. When you hear romance novel specifically, much less gay romance novel, it could very easily turn into something that's like a Hallmark movie, which, no offense, we love a good like small town, cozy up, cuddle up Hallmark movie. This is not that. And so I was a little bit worried about that. But as soon as they announced the director was Jacob Tierney, I was like, oh, we're fine. We're in good hands. I love the work that he did with Letterkenny and Shorzy. And so I knew that energy would come in. Shorzy specifically is it has like serious themes that they explore in the show, and it still has the humor element, and so I was really excited about that. And then when they announced the cast, Hudson Williams as Shane Hollander and Connor Story as Ilya Rozanov, I was like, never mind, everything's perfect. I have no notes because these two gentlemen are canon now to me for what Shane and Ilya look like. And I'm so happy with that. I think overall, I of course have my little notes, my little like nitpicking things because I have to as a fan. But overall, after rewatching it again, I was like, oh, this is so good. Like, they really just captured like the sexual tension, the should they, shouldn't they tension, the family dynamics, which are very internal in the book. We don't really see a lot of that on the page, but they added in a lot of scenes to show us, the viewer, like how Shane is with his parents and how isolated Ilya is from his family, which is so important, especially in the long game coming up, like the second book. And even having like other characters show up, like Scott Hutter's story is so key to Ilya and Shane's story. So having him kind of introduced as a character early on was a good choice. I don't like certain things, like specific nitpicking things, but overall I am very pleased with how this turned out.
Yeah.
And one thing that I very much appreciated is how compact the actual sports part was.
Yeah, we don't actually want the hockey.
Yeah,
we want them like
yeah, even
putting
like when
equipment on, taking equipment off. I guess the game happened. Jesus.
Game happened. And then like at the Olympics, we saw Ilya at the Olympics and he's talking to Svetlana, and Svetlana is like, gives all of this exposition of
I
like,
loved it.
Here's why I expect that this is the year that you will win the Stanley Cup, and here's how it will happen. And then we didn't have to watch any of those games.
No, we literally just see them winning it. It was so funny for
Holding
that
up the
scene
cup.
specifically. When I was rewatching it last night, my friend Jen is visiting right now, so she was on the couch next to me, you know, in her own world, but she was kind of paying attention to it. And she went, "Is Svetlana some kind of hockey savant?" I went, "I don't know, but I really dig this vibe because she's hot as fuck." But she's like, "Your goaltender is shit. This is what's happening here." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I really enjoy this."
Her dad was a professional hockey player.
Yeah.
So she sort of came up as hockey royalty.
Yeah. It was very funny to me.
Yeah,
Okay.
I love that.
I want to talk specifically about the characters because there was so much fucking hype going into this show, and not that they listen to this, but snaps to the fucking Heated Rivalry social media team. I have not seen a social media campaign like this ever before that knew exactly who their audience was and exactly what they fucking wanted in a way that still kept it fresh and fun. Like, y'all, I've been singing about hockey butts for the last 3 days. I feel sometimes like I'm objectifying people, but at the end of the day, I'm like, no, it's hockey butt. Like, this is legit hockey butt. This is great. I used to work with hockey athletes. I'm like, we're good here. But there was such respect for the material and for fun, and it never felt like they were making fun of the audience for liking this. Everybody knew this is what we wanted. So I really loved it. But I got to talk Hudson Williams and Connor's story here. Yeah. What the fuck you mean Connor's story isn't Russian? He's from Texas, y'all. He's from Texas!
When he talks for real, you're like, no, that's wrong. Stop it. Go back to the Russian.
He's fluent in French. He's done press in French. He's more fluent than Hudson Williams is, who's Canadian.
I didn't know that part.
Oh
That's
my
funny.
God. That's amazing.
Like it blows my, but they are perfect together. They seem to be such great friends in their social media posts, in their interviews. I'm sorry, when Connor called Hudson babe in one of their interviews, I was just like, you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing, sir. We're a Twitter. We are a glow. Whew.
Yes.
I love them.
Just the way that they interact in real life, just you can like, as a fan, I'm choosing to believe that there's chemistry there. Like, even if there's not, even if it's all the show, I really don't care because they're giving me exactly what I want. And I swear I'm sharing their social media posts to my stories every time I see one because they're great.
Yes.
That's the only reason I know is because the two of you keep sending them to me. You know I'm not on social media. Every once in a while, twice a week, I log in and I'm like, oh, I guess Heated Rivalry posted.
Catch up, girl. Yeah. No, I love it because what it really reminds me of their relationship on the press junket through their social media is it really reminds me of Colin and Penelope from Bridgerton season 3. I can't remember the actors' names off my head. Luke Newton, and Nicola Coughlan. Their press junket was very much the same, right? Everybody's like, oh my God, please say they're dating. And they're not. They're in separate relationships. But when the chemistry can translate into the press junket, I think it allows us to watch the media with a greater appreciation. Even something like Christian Bale. Christian Bale is fucking Welsh. But when he was doing the Batman series with Christopher Nolan, he did all of the press in an American accent, in like a pared down version of the Batman voice. And his thought was, I don't want to have my natural Welsh accent when I'm doing press about this particular film, because when people watch the press, there's like this instant kind of schism in their mind of, why is Batman Welsh? Yeah. So he did that on purpose. Even like, who is the George Lazenby, who was the guy who played James Bond for only one film. He only played it for one film because he massively pissed off the movie studio when he had to go do the press junket for the film that he did. He wouldn't wear a tuxedo. He grew a beard. He's like, I'm not going to look like James Bond when I do press because I'm not James Bond. I'm George Lazenby acting. And the studio hated that. And then they paid a fuck ton of money for Sean Connery to come back and do one more film after that. But there's this vibe of when you can see the actors in quote unquote real spaces having that vibe, and then you go to the media, you're like, I'm so in, I believe it. You could act like shit and I don't care because I'm just going to transpose the attitude you have in media into the media. And it's just, they're fucking great.
Yeah, they did that with Wicked too. Ariana Grande and Cynthia, is it Elvira? Erivo? Okay, they dressed in the color. Like every time I saw them in the press, Ariana's in pink, Cynthia's in green every time, and they looked adorable. And so I feel like that energy they brought into, like, it was so well thought out, the way that they did the press for this. And then the fact that it was supposed to be only exclusively in Canada, and the fans got so feral that they expanded distribution. Like, the impact of this fandom to me is this is going to be a moment that changes, I think, a lot of how we consume media. And I think after this series gets successful, because it already is, there's going to be more and more series that we love being turned into TV shows like this.
I mean, romance is a billion-dollar industry that is not represented in pop culture. And so when the mass media throws us a bone, we're going to grab it and run with it.
Bone.
And it's... Thanks for that commentary, Nikki. But I feel like it's, we have a couple little Netflix specials. We have these sweet little Hallmark movies, but we don't have the serious romance. It tends to get watered down, I'll say. Or it has to be clever. Oh, look, her high heel got caught in the subway grate and somebody has to save her. But, like, I love the fact that this is romance in a male-dominated industry, and people are just going wild for it. Because, like, this is not your typical sweetheart, small-town rom-com. And it was treated like a real piece of work. It was treated like it was truly an adaptation of the script and not like romanticizing hearts everywhere. And I loved that decision. And I think you're right, Drea, that like this is hopefully a turning point of studios saying, oh, look, there's this fan base that wants real stories. Yeah. Of people falling in love. And it doesn't have to be a helpless woman being saved.
No, and I think we've talked about this in previous episodes, that in my mind, romantic comedies or romantic film and TV, they are the disappearing middle class of film. Because you're either going to be hyper indie or you have to be Marvel multi-billion-dollar blockbuster. And that middle class lost its theatrical releases. It was getting pushed to streaming only. And even then, the speed of that, or the nuance within that category, really did get watered down to Netflix Christmas movies, which again, I fucking love them. I watched Merry Little Xmas or something the other day, and Champagne Problems I watched a couple days ago. It's fucking great. I love it. But it did become kind of this disappearing middle class in film that, again, I agree with you, Dre. I'm really hoping this again proves to studios, one, there is an audience out there who wants good, smart, well-produced romantic stories, and we want gay people on screen.
Yay, more gay people.
Yes, right? Like, just give us different stories. Because to your point, like, yeah, do I want to see a woman who broke her shoe and like almost gets run over by a dumpster, aka Jennifer Lopez in The Wedding Planner? Yes, I do. And I would really like it if there's 2 naked hockey butts on screen.
Yeah, the diversity.
I'm a simple
of it
woman.
All. I just think there's just not one way to have romance show up, and it doesn't have to be like indie to be queer. And that's the piece that I love about this too, is that sometimes queer stories get automatically put into like an indie category, like, oh, this is so niche. And it's like, no, this is mass appeal. Okay, like, look at all these people watching it. We want this. We want more.
Okay, shall we dive into the actual episodes? Because I just want to like jam out and fangirl about certain moments.
Yes.
Okay. So the second time I watched it, I had to write down the timeline because that's probably my number one, I'll say, gripe with the show. And this is challenging for a lot of shows. The Witcher, the first season of the first episode did this too, less explicitly. Like, to show time passing on screen is exceptionally challenging. Because if you do what Heated Rivalry did, where the first episode starts December 2018, it's when they're in that Youth International Cup or whatever in Saskatchewan. And then it's like 6 months later, 6 months later, 3 months later, 1 week later. And don't make me do math when I'm trying to watch TV show. So that was kind of my number one gripe with the show, that I think there could have been things they do a little bit more creatively to show passage of time without having to make the audience do math.
Or remember anything. It's not even doing math. It's like, I don't remember where they were. And so if they could start the scene by being like, wow, it's been 6 months since I've seen you. They did that a couple of times, but like setting it into the dialogue, setting it into what's happening on the screen instead of just having that bar that's like, oh, now they're in Saskatchewan. Now they're in Sochi. Now they're in Boston. Now they're in Montreal. Like, it felt, I mean, that's the whole point of the book, is that their relationship takes a long time to develop, and it does have this long window. But I agree with you that the actual timeline progression itself was hard to know. And could they have done different things of like, oh, change their hair so that way they look younger? They could have, but like when we watched Always Be My Maybe, I was like, oh, they tried to make the characters look like they're in high school by like giving her braces and making him wear a hat, and it just looks stupid.
Yeah.
You know?
I will say though, when I went back and watched it the second time, and it was like their first meeting when he goes, hey, I'm Shane Hollander, you're great to play, and Ilya's like, yes. I was like, fucking right, Ilya, yes. Like, they did actually look quite young. Yeah. They did a great job with makeup or effects or whatever they did, because then when you watch episode 2, because episode 1 covers about 3 years and episode 2 is about 3 years.
Okay.
Because it was funny when I was watching it, and Jen made a comment of like, wait, how is he captain? Isn't he a rookie? I'm like, no, this is actually 6 years post-draft at this point. And she's like, oh, really? So that was just, I know it's hard to do. My hope is that at some point the timelines we're gonna sit longer in a specific timeline, because episode 2 opens with a montage of them texting, which was great. And here it made sense because it was like summer 2011, fall 2011, winter 2012, spring 2012, fall 2012, dick pic, winter 2013, spring 2013, opening title, and then the show, fall 2013, we spend some time, winter 24, we spend some time. So my hope is that as the show progresses, we're going to stay longer in the timelines. But that was just something in that first episode, especially when I'm trying to figure out who the characters are and like what the relationship was with the timeline. I was like, wait, where are we now?
Yeah.
How old are we?
An interesting choice they made with the timeline too is that a lot of the fast forwarded timelines, they didn't have the sexual relationship that they do in the book, because I think that so at first I was upset by this because their relationship in the book is purely sexual for a long time, and then there's key moments where they start developing feelings, like Nikki knows what tuna melt just like as a buzzword, she has no idea what that means.
No idea what it means.
Things like that, where it's like these are key moments that as readers we go, oh, we know this is coming. So at first, the first time I watched it, I was kind of frustrated with that, but then the second watch through, it made a lot of sense, from especially someone new coming in like Nikki, who had never seen it before. We have to create some sort of tension between these characters, and if we just see them banging all the time, I think it's hard, especially with how quick the timeline jumps, to even put that in there, right? And so I liked that they did that, but I agree with the timeline. I feel like they've already adjusted it. I feel like they could have made different choices with the timeline jumps, especially in episode 1, to show the passage of time without it feeling so jarring. At times it just felt too like, oh wait, what? How are we already moving along, you know?
Yeah, and Drea, to your point, in the prologue of the book, it starts with probably about 8 years into that experience. The prologue starts in closer to the present, and then it jumps back to the draft, to the rookie season, to them being in high school, and we start to see that happening. But we know that this is where it's going, which I think is a smart move for the book, to ground it in, we're not going to be hanging out with 19-year-olds forever here. Like, just bear with me, we will get to the banging, right? But with the story, with the adaptation, we really want it to feel like we're with them the whole way. And to allow people a chance to get to know them before we get to the bagging, for that experience that you had, Andrea, the first time you read it, where you weren't as well versed in sort of romance expectations of, I need more time to get to know these people before I can go along on this journey. And especially knowing the culture and the society of like, well, we can't show gay people having sex, and then it's porn, right? It's not romance anymore. Or we can't show serious relationships that are occurring that are purely sexual without it also having these big romantic feelings. Like, we almost needed time to establish why they were together before we could get there. So from a purely adaptation perspective, I think it was the right move. But you're right, I did miss that sort of like explosive chemistry, and then we had to figure out how they got there. That works so well in the book because we have 350 pages to do it, not 6 hours, which is still so much time to be able to explore this narrative.
Yeah, and I think part of the tension too between Ilya and Shane is that we see them orbiting around each other, but not physically being together, which I think adds a different dynamic to their relationship than we like the experience we have in the book, which lends to what Nikki said earlier about like, these are just dudes. Like, they're just dudes. They're bros. They're hockey bros at that. And so in the book, we get, these are just dudes, like, not talking about anything and just fucking. And then they have to figure out the outside of that relationship, where that's hard to do in the show. So they showed that they're just bros. They're just dudes. They're hockey bros, right? I'm not gay. And then we see them kind of be almost magnetized towards each other in a different way in the show, which I now can appreciate. The first time I watched it, I was like, no.
This is so interesting to learn that it's kind of like a flashback, because I think generally speaking, flashbacks have to be used very strategically and very minimally in film and TV, in visual media. Because otherwise it's just like, no, like, you're slowing down the momentum if you're constantly using flashbacks, which is why we typically talk in film and TV about, you want to start your story as late as possible so that there is momentum. But just hearing you say that, I'm like, I wonder what it would have been like if they had mixed in flashbacks to this, as opposed to telling it as a linear storyline. Because then that actually might have been really interesting for me, especially in episode 1. Because some of the things were like, okay, it's December 2018, they're in the cup. 1 week later, it's the finals. 6 months later, it's the draft. 6 months later, it's the finals of that same cup again. 6 months later, they're on a commercial set. 3 months, 4 months, 2 weeks, 4 months, that the time jumps feel really jarring. Whereas if you had maybe skipped ahead to something and flash back to them first meeting outside the youth cup, whatever it was called, because this is not the NHL in the series, it's MHL, Major Hockey League, Major League Hockey. Copyright, thank you, NHL. So I think that's actually interesting. I think I would have preferred if they had actually used some flashback scenes so that I could still be in the moment and not waiting for all of these time jumps to come
I'm
together.
so glad they didn't.
Ooh,
I'm really glad that they didn't do flashbacks. I'm really glad that we got to see their relationship grow and evolve without feeling like there's already so much time elapsing that to try to jump back and forth and keep track of what's now, what's then, what's now, what's then, how old are they, how long ago was this, is he a rookie, is he the captain yet? I think that would have been that much harder to follow. So it really was just like chopping off chapter 1 and starting at chapter 2 was what the adaptation did. It didn't really jump around in time in the book once they got past that initial sort of prologue. They called it chapter 1, but it was a prologue. Or a future log? I don't know. Usually prologues are like earlier than the book happens, but it was not.
Yeah, this was just like a scene, a glimpse of their future, and then you start right in with it. I think, too, part of what that in the book does for me is show the like resistance to it all, but still have that like almost like animalisticness nature when they get together, which they still showed very well in the show with like the peck grabbing, which we texted Mark about to get verification. And so I don't know, I really did like what they did with the show, and to be honest, I was actually surprised by how much nudity we got. I wasn't sure, because you never know going into this. And yep, no notes. I am satisfied with the level of nudity that they put into it. If they put any more, I actually think I'd start getting uncomfortable.
Especially watching it in a room with a lot of other people. Like, I put Nikki, I think you'll appreciate this. I put K-pop Demon Hunters on in one room, and then I went in the other room and I watched it myself.
You're like, children, enjoy yourself with K-pop Demon Hunters.
Go save
Mama's
the world.
got to watch her hockey butt stories. Thank you.
Yes.
No, I agree. And one of the things I wrote down, it was during the Nashville All-Stars game, because that's when I wrote down, this is like the record breaking in the skills competition where Ilya sets a record, and then like a minute later Shane breaks the record, and Francois Arnault's character, I can't remember his name, Scott
Hunter.
Yeah, Scott's like, thank you for making sure that Rosanov didn't hold my record for longer than a minute. Much appreciate. But then they have the talking on the bench back and forth. That I love that scene. But then when they hook up in the hotel room, what I wrote down was, Ilya carries him, but praise to the lighting people for these butts. So snaps to the production design, because y'all, these butts and pecs and bodies were well lit from a purely aesthetic filmmaking perspective.
I think Kennedy Ryan said the same thing in her threads about this, which was like,
solid.
Whoever the lighting person and the camera person was during that scene should get double their pay. They really made it work.
Emmys, give them Oscars. It's not eligible for an Oscar because it's a TV show, but give them Oscars, like cinematography. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. And it's
great.
it's a little foreshadowing too, because there's like a moment later on in book 1 where like Shane admits to being a bottom basically, and like they're just showing that in different ways in the series than you can with like internal thoughts. So like the scene where he can't even say the word dildo just sent me, because it's such a Shane thing, and Ilya's like, what color is it? And I'm like, this is perfection.
It's so good. Yeah. What else did he say in that exact same scene? I wrote down, it's like, you know what makes you gay? You sucking my dick.
Right.
Yeah.
It was so good. Yeah, it's like we got the shower. Like, I love that the first clip from the show they released was the workout, hands touching water bottle, man spreading scene. Like, that was the first clip that was released to the show. And of course, feral. We're like, oh, their fingers are touching, and we thought that was good, y'all. There's blowjobs, there's hand jobs, there's butt, there's dildos, there's sexting. Like, there's the cuck chair improv moment, which I love and want to talk about. But like, it's just
chair improv.
Did you not hear about this?
I heard about this.
Drea, do you know the story?
Wait, what story? I mean, I know the book. It happens in the book.
No. Okay, so it's in the Olympics episode, and they're in. Is it in the Olympics or is it Vegas?
It is in book 2 or episode 2.
Is it episode 2?
Vegas, right?
Oh, yes, it is. Okay, it's at the end of it. They're in Vegas for the hockey awards again. They're presenting for sportsmanship, etc. They go back to Ilya's penthouse, and then Ilya, looking fucking fine as hell with that unbuttoned shirt and just kind of leaning. You're like, yes, thank you. And then Shane says there's too many windows. Yeah. So then they move into the bedroom, and as Ilya moves to the other side of the bedroom, he starts dragging the chair behind him. Yeah. People started calling this the cuck chair on social media because he is observing the bed. But here's the funniest part of that. The chair was in the wrong place. The set deck didn't set the scene correctly. This chair was already supposed to be at the foot of the bed, and it was not. So when Connor's story is going through his Ilya, he grabs the chair and drags it in a moment of improv to get it into the correct position. And now this has become like one of the blow up moments of that episode to go, Ilya dragging the cuck chair. This is great. It was not meant to be that.
It's so Ilya. That's the thing. It's so Ilya. So the thing that I love about their dynamic is that Shane doesn't say what he means. Okay. He went in the book, he's saying one thing and he's literally thinking the opposite. And we see that in the book. It's really hard to show that in the show, other than he seemed like through the texting, which I think they did a good job. Ilya is so freaking confident. What he says is what he's thinking. Okay. And if he's holding back a little bit, but like he just does what he's thinking. Right. And so that scene to me is such an Ilya moment, because he's just like, I need chair. I get chair. You know what I mean? And like, I didn't even know it was improv. It just makes it even better. Like even better. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that with me. I feel so delighted.
And let me add on to what you were just saying about Shane never says what he wants. Shane never says because Shane has so much internalized shame about, I was about to say misogyny. It's not misogyny. It's, I don't know. But Shane is the good guy. Shane is the polite one. Shane is the role model. Shane is the Asian character who needs to create a pathway for other Asian athletes. Shane has a lot of pressure on his shoulders to act the right right way, to be appropriate, to get a wife, to settle down and have babies. And then he has this thing with Ilya, and I loved the internal conflict in the book, but I wondered how they were going to adapt it so that he didn't just look like a pushover, because so much of his internal conflict is, I shouldn't be doing this, I shouldn't be doing this, I need to break this off, I shouldn't be doing this, I can't stop. Right? And that's not something that he ever articulates out loud. So how could they do that on screen? And so much of it is just his facial expressions.
Yeah, he did a fantastic job with the facial emotional complexity, because you see like multiple emotions go across his face. It's just really well done.
Right. Yeah. And even like that scene where they're in the gym and he's having these like gay thoughts for the first time in his life.
He's having stirrings.
And then you just see like, you see his face being like, I'm into this and I know I shouldn't be into this. And then you like get a cutaway to like Ilya's throat. Like, yep. He's got tingles in his groiny bits, for sure. Yeah, and I like how Hudson Williams did such a great job again. I think his facial expressions are phenomenal, because even in that the commercial photo shoot bit, when they start laughing hysterically at each other because they can't hit the mark at the same time, I loved it. But they kind of have their first like they're in the shower, and then there's like, what's your room number? Like, I love how Ilya is just like, no, like, we're doing this. We're just gonna do it. It's fine. And Shane is so like nervous, but eager, but curious, but terrified. And I love how like Ilya picks up on this. We stand a consent king. The amount of times Ilya's like, are you okay? Are we doing this? Because even though he's an asshole, he's not a bad guy. Yeah. Which I love the distinction they made. But even Shane's face, you can see on his face when he's kind of like on his side a lot, or when he's not directly looking at Ilya, he's like, just do it. Just fine. Just get it over with. It's fine. Do it. Oh my God, I really want it. Oh no. And you see all this on his face. And I'm just, it's so great, because to your point, we don't want voiceover. Voiceover in stories like this, it's shit. It doesn't work. You have to show us, not tell us. And I think he does a masterful job of showing it on his face. Even later in the second episode, when they start the pregame sexting, and Ilya's like, you know, how many times do you think, or not that that's an earlier scene, but like they're pregame sexting, and initially Shane writes, are you fucking with my head? Because we're about to play each other in a couple minutes, deletes it, and then they start talking, and he's just like, shut the fuck up. So where are we meeting? We're not, fuck you. Maybe I will. Sad face emoji. All that. But you see, like, there's a point where Shane is texting this, and he's like, fuck this, and he puts his phone away. He immediately picks it back up, and he puts it back down, and then he hears it vibrate, and he's like, fuck, because he knows he can't get out of this. Like, he knows he wants this, but he also hates it. Yeah. And I love this for him.
Yeah. And I think I loved that whole dynamic between them, because that is Shane in a nutshell. Like, he is, especially in book 2, which I know neither of you have read, he is a little like neurotic, if I can say that word with love. I don't know, like a gentler way to say this, about like his body and himself and how he presents to the world and how he's perceived by everyone. And it's like he takes everyone's thoughts about him above his own thoughts about himself as like his path forward. Whereas Ilya's like, I'm just going to live my life. And in fact, Ilya is like a huge softie. And I feel like they're starting to hint at this so far, but I'm curious about how they lean into it, because through the entire series, he becomes a recurring character. So even though there's different couples in the other books, Ilya is very present, and he's a very supportive, like, queer ally as well through for other characters. And so him being a consent king for Shane feels like it's touching on that. But then even the amount of times other people ask Shane about Ilya, to me, it was like showing how much other people know him and how he's a cornerstone in their community, basically. And so it was really interesting to see that piece. But the thing that I missed the most in this first 2 episodes was the actual rivalry between the two, because so far it feels like they play hockey against each other. There's not a lot of tension to me so far between like, oh, they're supposed to be enemies. And like, I'm new to hockey. I'm a new hockey fan. We hate the other guys. And so I don't I don't quite get that from.
I did think that they did an
this.
okay job
Okay.
with both the personal rivalry of the rookie of the year, who's going to win it, the
Yeah, that's
MVP, who's going to win it. And then they also had that moment in the locker room where they're like, it was the Montreal locker room, and they said, oh, they're burning effigies of Ilya. They do the same for you in Boston, right? Like, that was a little bit there, but it wasn't on the ice because they didn't want to do that much actual hockey playing.
It's
which
expensive
respect.
to film that shit.
Is it?
It's so expensive because then you have to fill the
Fill the
stadium.
stands.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe
I
they're
agree.
trying to go somewhere with the tension too, because there are 4 more episodes, and so it could also be a mirror where like, oh, there's not as much rivalry, but there's not as much romance. Whereas later on, it could be a bigger rivalry because they're both captains now. They're both, they're both stars now. But then their romance also is like so secretive and behind the scenes. I could see them like really drawing that out too. So time will tell.
Yeah, I think, again, I haven't read the books. For me, I feel like they made Ilya too soft and squishy too early. Because, like, if the relationship is, like, just sexual to start, I feel like he was too nice to Shane too early. That I didn't get the impression that he's a fuckboy in the way that I think they wanted to paint him. I feel like it should have... There's just something weird with me that by the time, they get into episode 2 and they're meeting at the apartment and they have sweet moments, I feel like there's not enough contrast between the start of their relationship in episode 1 where it was not sweet. But he was sweet in episode 1. He was very kind and very caring. We stand a consent king. And I think you can still have that, but have Ilya be... I think the only way they really showed that was by having Ilya leave after every encounter.
Yeah.
And like just making it quick. But I don't feel like his detachment occurred before they would hook up or during the hookups. So I wanted to see a little bit more of a transition for Ilya to have a little bit more of an impact later when they meet up or when they actually do have sex for the first time. And Ilya's checking in all the time because good job, Ilya. So I wanted a little bit more of that because I was like, sure, on ice rivalry or in the press rivalry, those are often manufactured. But yeah, I wanted to see a little bit more. But I also wanted to see a little bit more of Ilya actually being an asshole to Shane or not necessarily thinking of him as a person as much. Like, I almost feel like I think it would have been interesting if Ilya had seen Shane as more of a conquest. Be like, ooh, this is how I'm going to win the rivalry is by being better than him at this. Then have that create tension and then have that be the change. Again, I don't know where the book is going with this, but I feel like that would have been a little bit more of the interpersonal tension between the two would be, oh, he doesn't really care about me. I don't really care about him. And then that changes over time. Like I wanted to see a little bit more of that.
I like where your head's at with it. I think it would have been really interesting to do. But I also know that we read a lot of enemies to lovers, right? We're familiar with this idea of hate sex. And I think if a story like this that was supposed to be a little bit more mass appeal started with a character who was that detached, I don't think people may have connected to him as well, especially non-romance readers. There may have been sort of like a, why is he being such a dick? And I think we're used to it, especially if you've read paranormal, if you've read romantic suspense, if you've read books where it's a little bit more common to just be fuck buddies or to have sex with your rival and have it be that conquest. I think that is, it's not only something that we're more familiar with because of our familiarity with the genre and almost like darker a little bit. But it's also just not in line with the character as written in the book. So I agree with you that it would have been an interesting choice to show him a bit more detached. But there is also this sort of split Ilya of public Ilya and private Ilya. And he is a bit softer in the bedroom, even when he's saying, on your knees. It's a dominant thing, but it's not a harsh thing for him.
Yeah, Ilya's character, that is Ilya's character, I think, is he's macho, but he's not an enemy. Everyone, like a lot of people like him and respect him in the book. And so I feel like they're trying to show that in the show. And I think they did a good job, even with people just asking about him to Shane. It just shows the impact that he has. And so, yeah, I think he's a softie. And my theory is that he's the one who falls in love first. It's the timeline in the book. It could have been either of them, really. But my theory is always like Ilya really pursued Shane from day one, and he's the one moving their relationship along. Shane has been very resistant, and he stays resistant right up until the end. Like, Shane pissed me off so much in book 2 that, like, I didn't like him as a character for much of the book, because he's like, Ilya is sacrificing so much for their relationship, and Shane's just like, hockey or die. And I'm like, what? But anyways, that's neither here nor there. I'm curious from both of you, since you're not kind of like super fans like me, where do you think this is going for the next 4 episodes? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I know the next episode, is that the one that doesn't have a title? It's just like asterisks is episode 3's title?
Yeah.
Is that because they haven't released it yet, or is that because it's actually going to stay that? Like, I know everybody is excited for the cottage. I have no idea what that means. So I'm guessing they go to a cottage. Woohoo. There's a turning point, I guess. I feel like they've introduced a lot of different components that, one, I'm kind of excited to see how they resolve it, but also I'm just a little concerned in terms of timing. Because on Ilya's side, we have Alexei, his shitty brother, who's always calling about money. We have Svetlana. We met Sasha really briefly. I'm like, are they going to bring him back? How's Svetlana going to go into this? They have his dad, who I believe they haven't explicitly said, but looks to be suffering from some form of dementia or Alzheimer's. And Ilya's probably dealing with that. There's a lot of pressure. So, like, you have all of those open loops just with Ilya. Then I'm like, how are they going to find space to deal with those? I don't really know. There's going to have to be some point, I think. And they've touched on this a little bit briefly about how Russia not being safe. I'm like, there's got to be a point where Ilya, like, quote unquote, leaves Russia, like, doesn't go home for his own safety, or that's why they have to stay in the closet. I don't really know. Shane, I feel like he did not get as developed in the first 2 episodes as much as Ilya did, other than, angsty boy. Which, like, even with his family, I feel like they're painting Shane's character with a very wide brush on the pressure he is from his mom, and his dad seems like a bit of a twat who's not really paying attention to much. He kind of feels like just hanging out with Shane's mom, Una, being like, cool, what's YouTube? Is Rolex on YouTube? I was like, sir, you're a clown. Go sit down. So
Which
I think it's meant to be, look how long ago this was that people didn't know what YouTube was. I think that's what that was supposed to.
But even that, I was like, none of those characters at all seem relevant to me. They're just noise. They're there because they're in the books. I don't think so far they've done anything to augment Shane's character. Anything we've learned from Shane's parents or scenes that he's been in, I could have learned it somewhere in a different way that I think would have been more interesting. So again, you have all these characters taking up real estate just in the first 2 episodes that I'm curious, but also not super confident they're going to resolve all of those in a way by season end. Like, I don't know where they're going to even end season, because I don't know where the cottage comes in terms of the book. Is it midway through the book? Is it the end of the book? I don't know. And I know a lot of people are talking about season 2, and if they're going to be one, I don't know if they're going to do season 2. Hopefully it gets picked up for anything, even if it's not with Ilya and Shane. Maybe if they jump to another couple, that's great. But I think at some point they're going to have like a come to Jesus talk, or one of them is going to demand more, probably Ilya, and Shane's going to shut it down, and there's going to be that schism that goes for a while. So yeah, there's just a lot of pieces, and I don't, if I play through like the technical beats of what would happen in a romance like this, I'm like, okay, cool. They're gonna fall a little bit deeper. One of them's gonna pull back. There's gonna be a fight. There's gonna be a schism. They're gonna have to come back together somehow. Maybe at the cottage. I don't know. And then the resolution is just because I've read the book blurb for their second book, and from what I can remember of that book blurb, it takes place 10 years after the start of the relationship, and they're still not out publicly. I'm like, great, they're gonna keep a secret again, which pisses me off as a viewer and a reader. So that's where I'm at. I don't know. Things can happen.
You're so wrong and so right at the same time, which I appreciate.
Yeah, delightful.
Meg, what about you?
I like this.
I mean, because I've read the book and recently read the book, I'm sort of clocking as we go. Okay, we're a third of the way into the season. We've got 2 out of 6 episodes down. Fractions! And we're at about 30% of the book, which I think is really good pacing. I think the book itself is very well paced. And so I sort of know what's coming, and I trust the adaptation in a way that I haven't trusted every adaptation that we've had on the pod. So like Bridgerton, when we do that in 2 months, Nikki, I'm going to be like, why did we even have the book? Because I have a feeling they're just going to go completely off script and build a whole new B plots. And I'm going to be like, why didn't you do the thing that was in the book? The book was fine. That's why you bought the rights to the book, right? But this, I trust that they will respect the original source work. So I'm going to refrain from making predictions. I will say that on the reread, I wanted to stop before the cottage.
Okay.
And so, like, because of what happens at the cottage. So, I think that there is both a blessing and a curse to knowing what's going to happen and knowing how the twists are going to happen and what the road's going to do. And I'm looking forward to watching the rest of it. I kind of went like, will I continue to watch this after the podcast? Because I'm not really a TV watcher and this isn't really my lane. This isn't the like top story that I would have wanted to see as an adaptation, but I think I will continue to watch it because I'm enjoying the acting and the adaptation, and even more so than like, oh, look at these really well lit sex scenes and bubble butts. Like, I love seeing the words turn into movies. I love that experience when it's really well done, and I do believe that this is really well done. What about you guys? Are you going to keep watching? Andrea, you're going to keep watching.
Is that even a question at this point?
Yeah.
Like, I think for me, I like looking at the episode titles. I think the episode 3 has no title on purpose because I think there's some, like, if they gave it a title, it would be a spoiler.
It would be too much.
It would be too much. Like, even as fans, I kind of now can guess what this episode's going to be about because there's something that does happen that kind of pulls them apart and brings them together at the same time. And then I think that that's going to develop things further. Episode 4 being called Rose, if you know, you know. And then if I'll believe anything, that's going to be Scott Hunter. And then the cottage is the cottage. And so I do feel like there's going to be progression, but I think based on how fast forwarded the first 2 episodes are, the rest of the season, I think they're going to really condense down into a year or 2 because they have so much to cover still. And as viewers, it'll be interesting to see that. I am going to watch it all very happily multiple times.
I as well. I'm very excited. Can I share some more fun facts with you guys about this? Some funny stories. There was a clip on the carpet for the premiere of this that was asking the cast and crew, what percentage of episode 1 is a spicy scene? So any guesses percentage-wise, what percentage of episode 1 had spicy scenes?
Oh, so somebody went through and watched the scenes and marked them spicy or not spicy?
Yes.
Or, okay.
The reporter did. And then she asked all the cast and crew to guess what percentage of episode 1.
15%.
22%.
Oh, more?
Higher.
What was it?
29%.
Oh.
So like a third of episode 1, which again, we don't get that often or ever. I can't think of another like more mainstream show or movie that has that much spicy stuff in its first
Right
section
from the
or first
gate.
whatever. So 29% of episode 1 is great. The other
wait, did they count the spicy scenes in episode 2? Because I feel like there weren't as many in episode 2.
This press was just for episode 1.
Oh, okay.
So the other thing that made me laugh hysterically, this is again behind the scenes that came from Connor and Hudson, is the shower scene. They are wearing intimacy garments while they're in the shower, right? So typically you would have a pouch or something that's just on the front because you do see their bare butt, but you don't see any front genitalia. So there was an intimacy coordinator on this show. Her name was Chala Hunter. So they were wearing intimacy garments that were like very, very tight. They weren't wearing the pouch version, for those who know the difference in intimacy coordination. And Connor was telling this story on one of the red carpets that they were so tight so that things don't move, right? They're keeping them very close to the body, so that your genitals and other body parts can't like escape. He goes, but here's the thing that nobody expected. We're in the shower scene. Water gets into those. Water can't get out of those. So he said the longer a take would go on, the intimacy garment started to blow up like a water balloon. And then you would just like look down at your co-star's package knowing that, oh, the characters are seeing each other naked. Oh no, the actors are seeing each other's water ballooning intimacy garments get bigger and bigger the longer the take went on. So that every time the director called cut, they had to like pop the water balloon and let all the water out of their dick pouch
Oh my God.
Fix it again, and then reshoot it, and it would start filling up with water.
Wow.
Oh my
Sentences you'd never thought you'd hear. Let water out of your dick pouch.
Yeah, get the water out of your dick pouch. So now you can go back and watch that scene and just like, I can't stop laughing now when I see it's very tense. It's really fun. I kind of like every time one of them turns around, the other one kind of looks, and we're never looking at it. And then I just think their dick pouch is filling with water right now. It's probably the size of a watermelon.
Oh my God.
Just reminds me of like, was it Violet Beauregard in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory when she gets blown up into a blueberry? This is what I'm envisioning. So you're welcome for
Thank
that.
you.
Hopefully it doesn't turn purple.
Hopefully not. That would
Ooh.
be bad.
That would be a problem. It's a
okay.
circulation issue.
Beautiful. Okay, let's do it. Let's talk about what we are shipping the most about the show or the 2 episodes that have released to date. Jerry,
Start
what are you
with
shipping the
Ilya
most?
Rosenoff doing literally anything in this show is perfection. That man, the eye fucking alone, that man can do. He should teach classes. I mean, my goodness. So I'm shipping Ilya Rosenoff and everything that he does.
Beautiful. Actually, Drea, do you want to share that list you shared with us
Oh, yeah.
this morning?
Yeah. Okay, so the list was, these were my notes basically for this episode. Things I missed about the show, the freckles. Shane's freckles were there, but Ilya's obsession with the freckles, missing. Bear tattoo, completely gone. Ilya being a softie, I thought he could have been softer. I don't know. The timeline jumps were confusing. The first chapter, banging. I kind of wanted to see that, and I wanted more of a rivalry. The things I adored about the show, bubble butts. Ilya's
Bubble
accent.
butts.
I loved Shane's mom. She's such a supportive character in book 2, especially for them, like their second book 6 of the series. I at first watched, didn't like Scott Hunter, loved him the second way around. They had to put him in there, and they did it in a way that's different from the book, and I like that. Shane deleting texts, Shane not being able to say dildo, the eye fucking, and Ilya doing anything.
Anything. Absolutely anything. Oh my God, I love it so much.
What about you, Nikki? What do you ship the most about
It's Ilya
Rivalry?
Rosenoff. I tell you, Connor's
Oh.
story fucking killed it. There's a couple of scenes for me that like I think are just some of the best ones. One of them is during, I think it's the All-Star match when they're talking to each other from across the bench.
Yep.
And it's like, you know, Ilya just really wants to talk to Shane, but he's like, no, I'm cool. I'm hair flip, Ilya Rosenoff. And they're just kind of going back and forth. It's really inane. Like, oh, did you go drinking last night? Yeah, I went out, but I didn't get drunk. I did. It was nice to have like no Canadians, no Americans. And Shane's like, oh, just finish people talking about whatever. And then as he skates away, he goes 12:21, and we're like, room number. So like just little bits like that, or when he picks up Shane in the hotel room, or even in that last scene when they're in Vegas, and it's like really, really sexy, like really intense. Then all of a sudden he goes, oh, you should hold the cup, and he goes, it's the best day of my life, and you're like, just like how he adds in like that lightning to kind of I think help Shane settle a little bit.
Yeah. But
how he just did that sigh like, oh, you have to hold the cup. Like, Connor's story is fucking perfect. Ilya Rosenoff forever. Absolutely, absolutely brilliant. He was
Sometimes I was wondering,
so
like,
good.
what is Ilya doing with Shane? So the whole book, the whole TV show, like, what is he doing with Shane? Why Shane?
don't
Yeah,
read
I
the
hope-
long game then, Meg. You will be
Okay.
asking yourself that times 10.
No, don't do that. Meg, what about you? What are you shipping?
I think for me, it was obviously Ilya, and then also like what they did with sort of his split life between Russia and North America. I really liked the difference of Shane having the supportive parents and Ilya having sort of a much more, this is the expectation of what you're supposed to do for your family. And then also, because we already sort of fangirled about Ilya and Connor, just the adaptation, I think it has been so well done. The filming, the cinematography, like it is such a good production value. And so I think that's what I'm shipping is this could have been really disappointing, and it wasn't. It's been very enjoyable for everyone involved.
Agreed. Crossing my fingers that it goes well. Like I think a lot of us have been disappointed by adaptations in the recent years. Like The Witcher is one of the biggest ones for me. I'm upset about it. So I'm almost not trusting how good of an adaptation this is right now. Like, or just how good of a property it is, because I can't judge it as an adaptation. So I'm kind of worried. I'm like, all right, when are they gonna fuck up? When's it gonna happen? When are they just gonna go so bad? I'm a little worried, but ever hopeful. And that is it for our discussion of Heated Rivalry, hockey butts galore, and perfect lighting. A few gentle reminders before we say goodbye to you this week, soulmates. Head on over to Substack, Apple Podcast, Spotify. Give us a rate, review, and subscribe so that we too can rise through the ranks and maybe win Rookie of the Year, Sportsman. I don't know. Include a sports reference there for you. Give us a follow on our social media accounts. We are at First Dates and Soulmates on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and the Facebooks. Head on over to our shiny website that Meg so lovingly crafted, firstdatesandsoulmates.com. We have a quiz there. Help you figure out your romance trope. You get a sweet playlist of our best episodes and recommendations because, y'all, we got some bangers over the past almost 2 years, which is insane to me. And if you do have a little bit of money to send our way, you can check out our merch store on TeePublic. Link is in the show notes for you, or you can subscribe to the show on Substack. Do it for 1 month, do it for many months. We're just so happy that you are here.
And if you're listening to this live and you want to go grab my new novella, it's coming out this Friday, December 5th. It's called Making Spirits Bright. You can grab it on Kindle Unlimited this week to get a little bit more different Connor. Very different Connor than Connor's story. But still a Connor. And if you are planning to buy it, wait till next week. We're going to put out an episode about Making Spirits Bright next Wednesday. And then I'm going to put it from $2.99 down to 99 cents from next Wednesday to Saturday. So if you're reading on Kindle Unlimited, go grab it. Start with those Kindle pages. I would really appreciate that to help my velocity. But you can also just wait till next week when we will be talking all things Making Spirits Bright right here on the podcast.
Yes, that is Making Spirits Bright by author Bailey Seaborn. Back in the hot seat next week. Until next time, wishing you a day of cuck chairs, filling up intimacy garments, and really manly pec massages. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.